Hello and welcome to the Items and Abilities Guide. In this video we're going to look at Yuri, all of his items, abilities, his stats for them, and to add to them I'm going to give pros and cons, my personal pros and cons, and try to give an opinion on them, try to help you give an idea what the items are if you've never seen them before, or if you're trying to set up a build, what might work for you. So we'll start off with utilities. We'll go up and right. So utility talks about how Yuri can jump. So how Yuri moves around is he has a jetpack that he can use whenever he wants, and he can move wherever he wants, just as long as nothing is blocking his path. So he's got decent move speed to him. You can toggle the jetpack on and off however you like. So he can move on the ground, or you can climb upwards, outwards. So it seems to be the same speed wherever you go. So the benefit is, well, you can freaking fly. The thing about it though is that you don't really have a burst speed ability, like a jump I mean to say, because the jump button toggles your jetpack. You can't really jump to avoid an attack or to avoid a burst ability, for example. So where you might be able to fly and be out of range for a lot of attacks, if you are in range, it's going to be difficult for you to avoid them. So do bear that in mind. So we'll go down the stats of Yuri. So what it says 1350 health. That's what he starts with. So about 6, almost 7 ticks of health each. In that green bar, each line represents 200 health. So every tick, I call them, or bar health, is 200. And what a lot of people don't know is that as the game progresses, every 90 seconds you get 3% more health. So 3% to 1350, and it goes on for 15 minutes. So that means you can get a maximum of 30% of your max health. So for Yuri's case, where it's 1350, it can go up to 1755. And like everybody else, you can regenerate 600 health per minute on your own. So about 3 bars of health. So kind of to help counter Nah in that sense, any damage over time. You get the same amount of solar as everybody else, 235 when you leave the drop pod. And you can collect more solar as you drop your way down. And like everybody else, you can generate 30 solar per minute. So as long as you're existing, you can get paid 30 solar per minute. So if you're taking out droids, or if you're going for kills or assisting with kills, 30 is your minimum payout as long as you're alive. And as we showcased, we looked at Yuri's aerial movements, so that's kind of his uniqueness. His height, 1.4, whatever that means. He is quite short, if not one of the shortest Awesomenauts. So while he might be hard to hit, he is slow to move around, where he has that jetpack on him, so he doesn't move. Well, he kind of moves fairly fast, but it's just that when he is moving in the air, he doesn't move all that quick. That's kind of my pet peeve with him. But you can get the items to change that to work with how you will. And it doesn't say in here, but his movement speed is 8.2, if that means anything to you. So he's kind of right up there with everybody, considering having a big jetpack on his back. Okay, we'll look at Power Pills Turbo. 130 solar, can be bought 3 times. It gives 12% more health. And I did some research on it where you naturally grow health. It only adds 12% to your base health. So if you were to wait 15 minutes and then buy power pills, it won't be 12% of 1755. It'd actually just be 12% of 1350. So you can do that 3 times and grow on to that. So naturally, where you might be victim to powerful attacks, or just be, or you will be shot more often where you're slower, might be something to consider. The Medican, 90 solar each times, twice. You can regenerate 700 health per minute. So where you regenerate 600 health, you can add on another 700 or 1400 health. So it depends on if damage over time is getting to you, or if you're having trouble getting critters, if people are taking them out. Just a means to regenerate health on your own, if you wish to. Yuri does have a healing item and a lifesteal item. So if either you need more self-healing, or if you just are choosing not to use them for whatever reason, but you still need to regenerate health, you can choose this item if you wish. So the space error max adds 1.2 to your movement, so 8.2 according to the Gamepedia. So 8.2, 1.2, 9.4. So it does help with getting around the map a lot easier. A new item in new 2.7 is the Wraith Stone. So critters, or creeps as they're commonly known, they drop 250 health when you kill them, along with 2 or 3 solar. So if you buy this item, you will get 450 health, adding the 200 extra on there. If you're able to get critters and you feel that you need more health, if you're coming out of a big fight or you just need to get more health to get back into a fight faster, this might be for you. And with Yuri's mines, where he can lay them down for a little while, it could combo quite well, as long as just if you find yourself killing critters often, you might want to think about getting that. And the piggy bank, no charge, gives you 130 solar if you need to buy an item faster, or if you're trying to get a head start when you come out of the drop pod for the first time starting the match. So naturally, you get free money. How can you really argue with that? The only thing about it though is you have to give up a space. You can only buy 3 items at a time. So a lot of people will pick, say, the boots and health and piggy bank. But I'm on the fence of whether or not to get it. It depends on the situation. Because if you buy that piggy bank and if you buy these 2, you're ignoring these items. Sometimes you might need them. It might help you. Kind of decide for yourself what you might need to get. So do bear in mind you're sacrificing a slot for money that you're going to get anyway if you don't lose within that amount of time. So if you think you need a head start, or if you think you're going to there's a good chance you're losing if you don't buy another item, that is something you might want to consider. Or just save the space for another item. Baby Curie Mammoth, 110 solar each time, twice. Reduces most debuffs by 25%, up to 50%. So it says slow, stun, snare, silence, blind, amplify. It doesn't say knockback. I don't believe knockback is applied because the jump pads in the games actually apply knockback. I'll demonstrate an item and I'll talk about perhaps why it doesn't count that. Okay, we'll look at Yuri's laser. It does. The stats might be a little bit confusing. So how it works is 30 damage, 40 maximum damage. So what it means by that is when Yuri fires his laser, it's got a decent reach to it and it can bounce off walls. But if you see that laser growing, when it's at its thinnest, it does 30 damage, and at its thickest, it does 40 damage. So it takes about half a second for it to charge up to do 40 damage, which is its base maximum. And attack speed is 300, and just do the math on that. 300 is 0.2 hits per second, or 5 hits per second. So you can get quite a bit of damage on it as long as you can stay on target. The only thing about using the laser though, you can't move. Even if you're falling, you stop moving. So it does have its benefits that way, but if you're trying to chase after somebody, it can be hard to finish them off with the laser. More effective against droids, or combining that with your time warp to use that. So the good thing about using that, it cancels jumps if you're about to fall into a trap, anything like that. And you can use items to change the stats of that. And it says pull pickups towards you. If you kill a critter, you can drag the health towards you, or if you see solar, you can grab that solar. It's like a magnetic charge. It will come closer to you, and you can grab it that way. So looking at Giant Monocle, 180 solar, increases range by 2.4. So adding 2.4 to 9, 11.4, it does reach quite a bit, a little bit extra. Because of that longer reach, it can help you get that last hit on an enemy. Or if you're trying to just deal more damage in general. People who are trying to get away from you, and you couldn't reach them with your time warp, or if you just need to do that last little bit of damage to get the final blow, or help an enemy get a hit, of course. That might be something you want to get, or not. So I believe they did increase the price of this because it is becoming a more popular item. Because that extra reach can be deceiving. Okay, Instant charge battery can be bought twice. 210 solar each increases attack speed of laser. So 20% of 300, just trying to remember the math I did. So 20% of 300 is 60, so 360 divided by 60, I believe is 6, so you can get 6 hits per second on the base attack speed. So it just lets you fire faster and does the same amount of damage, but it packs that extra punch per second. You can do it twice, pack another punch per second, so 5, 6, or 7 hits per second. So 40 times 5, 200 damage, 224 or 280 damage per second. As long as you can land a shot, all of the shots per second, of course. Okay, resonance amplifier can be bought twice, 140 solar each, and maximum damage. What it means by maximum damage is it makes your laser, it adds another stage, so it goes from 30, 40, and if you buy it once to 50. So it takes longer for it to charge up, but you can do more damage that way, and you can tell by the thickness of the laser when you upgrade it. So if you buy it twice, there's actually a longer thing. It doesn't actually add to the base damage, it just adds to the maximum damage. So you start out with 30, half a second 40, half a second 50, half a second 60. So if you don't mind waiting for a little while, for another second, you can do quite a bit of damage with that for fairly cheap too. The only thing about it though, you gotta be still. But it can work quite well if you combine slows, or if you're just fighting droids. Kind of a nice way to defend your lanes, or to protect somebody for the cheap. Okay, Fly Swatter. This adds base damage to everything. So it will be 40 damage at start, and then it'll be 50 damage when it hits the max. So kind of a decent item if you don't have enough solar for the Hubble's lens. Just does more damage if you need that extra punch. However, it is 10 damage, so it's not a great deal, but you have to make use of the combination of items to really make the most of it. And the Hubble's lens is basically just 2 of these, but since you can't buy the Fly Swatter twice, you can only buy this once. It is quite a bit, 360 solar, adds 20 damage to the laser, so 50, and then 60 damage. So it's kind of a quick way to do lots of damage if you need to apply it instantly. Works better against enemy Awesomenauts where they're moving around all over the place and they're trying to get away from you or trying to kill you first. Something to consider, but can be better for more offensive Yuri rather than if you're defending or just fighting droids. And the Baby Yeti, 185 solar, adds a slowing debuff to the laser. 20% isn't a whole lot. I've noticed that it doesn't really seem to do anything against attack animations. Like, it won't make somebody fire any slower, but they do move a tiny bit slower. So you really notice that on droids, they move a little bit slower, gives your droids more territory to travel, but their attacks doesn't seem to be any slower. But you can combine it with Time Warp, where it has 30%, 30 and 20%, so 50 damage. Make them go half as slow, and when they seem to stack, they move really slow, plus their animations go slower as well, so it's kind of a strange item, but it seems to work best against droids because, well, just slowing them down just by a little bit can make quite a bit of difference if you're trying to gain more territory. So looking at the Time Warp, it's a 13-second cooldown, goes on for 3.5 seconds. The size is fairly decent, 9.2, and what it does is that it gives 30% slowing power on base. So this is how it looks like that. Anybody who gets caught in here will slow down by 30% speed and attack speed. So that is something to consider if you need to. A lot of people don't know that it can affect some bullets, say some projectiles. The turret bullets, Lone Stars, Dynamite. Some things can be slowed down, some projectiles, along with enemy droids and Awesomenauts. So the items for the Time Warp, you can get the Chrono Rift, 190 solar, increase the slowing power by 10%, can only be bought once though. So you can increase it to 40% if you wish. So if you're going for just trying to slow down the incoming waves, you can do that. Or try and slow down Awesomenauts while you're peppering them with mines, that type of thing. There is an item, 120 solar each, it gives 5% each time. You can buy it for 15%, where this only gives 10%. So when you're buying towards a better slow, if you don't think you'll be buying the entire upgrades for this item, you might want to get this instead, because it would be cheaper, 120, 240, 360, whereas this is 190 for 10%, so it's actually 50 solar cheaper if you just buy 2 upgrades here, but that extra upgrade will give you that extra 5%. So if you're going for more cheaper, or if you don't think you're going to need that much slow, it is up to you, whatever you want to use, or combine them and get even more slow. And the regeneration pod can be bought twice, 170 solar. It heals both allied Awesomenauts androids, 60 health per second for 3.5 seconds, or you can do it again for 120 solar per second to do that. It works very nicely, especially in 2.7, where droids don't get their health back when they activate their shield. I think this works the best towards turrets, because 60 over the course of 3.5 seconds is actually 210 health, so it's not a great deal. Over 3.5 seconds you get about a bar of health back, and double that, it's 420 health, so it's about 2 bars of health. It's good for when you're in pinch, but I find this works better against droids because you can regenerate their health, and not a lot of abilities can heal droids other than Voltars. So it can work with allied Awesomenauts, but it doesn't really heal them a whole lot. So I would recommend using this towards droids if you're going for more lane pushing, or just trying to protect them from a turret while you're attacking a turret at the same time. And the infamous Pod Packs Deluxe with Banana, 155 solar. And what's special about this is that any damage you do with laser while your Time Warp is active, half of the damage you do, you get healed. So where you can do 200 damage per second, maximum damage, 5 hits per second, so 200 damage, you get 100 health back per second. So when you can upgrade the damage on that, late in the game, that can heal almost any damage you take. Not kind of burst damage, but it can be very difficult to take down a Yuri who is using this. So it's really great if you're being an aggressive Yuri, or you find yourself by yourself a lot, laying down mines, that type of thing. I find it's not really, doesn't really benefit teamwork, it's just excellent sustain. But I find myself rarely using this because I have to be on the move a lot, because we're using the laser, you have to be staying still. I found myself either using the Time Warp to help my allies in some way, so I have to keep moving, or either using mine. So if you find yourself not having to move around while using Time Warp, you could use it. It really depends on what you want to do, but do bear in mind that if you don't slow down the enemy enough, you might end up wasting that, or just get ranged to better benefit that. But it benefits the most by damage, of course. And this is perhaps my favorite item in this belt, the Flash Forward. 220 solar, and what it does is that it speeds up allies within your Time Warp by 25%. So speed up, that actually means attack speed, movement speed, and cooldown as well. And that applies for droids as well. They would actually move faster and attack faster. So it's excellent if you're trying to push towards a turret, heal your droids if you want to combine that, or help them get more hits per second, that type of thing, help them fight faster, clear out the enemy droids, and then start hitting the turrets. Helps really well against Awesomenauts, that you can help them go faster, fight faster, decrease their cooldown by 25%, so whatever that is, well, their time is 25%. And it also applies to you as well. You will move faster, you will fight faster, you're just 25% faster. You and anyone who is in your Time Warp, that's an ally. This is a space-time continuity device. 200 solar, provides debuff immunity. The only thing about it though, it only applies debuff immunity to yourself, it doesn't work on your allies. So if you don't want to use the baby carrying mammoth, or if you just want to be immune outright, only works while the time warp is active though, that's the only thing. Works very well against snares, or if someone's trying to silence you, or trying to pull you into a black hole. Just pop that, and you don't have to worry about anything during that time. So it can be very useful. However, if you have no interest in using this, or if your belt's filled up here, this could work quite well, as long as you're not interested in using these items. If you have an extra space, you might want to consider using that, depending on who your enemies are. So I kind of touched on this already. The time primer, 120 solar each, gets 5% each time. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to get that 15% extra slow, or if you only want 10% and you're willing to pay less for it. But you don't get as much slow, that's the only thing. So you can get that 15%, but it's going to cost you 360, or 360 for 15%, or 240 for 10%. So 240 versus 190. Depends on how much money you can spend, or if you would rather put that money towards something else in your items entirely. Okay, looking at mine deploying. Enables Yuri's mines, gives 400 damage on a 4-second cooldown, and the mines last for 12 seconds. So they kind of give off a noise, that's kind of the problem with them. You can't really make silent traps laying in places. If an enemy's not paying attention, or if they don't know how the mines work, that can be a little bit ineffective. So they can do quite a bit of damage. Each mine will do 2 bars of damage. So they can put them in the same spot. So if an enemy jumps onto them by accident, they can trigger multiple mines at once. And where they have a bit of an explosion to them, they can hit more than one person at once. So 2 droids are coming and they hit a mine, it damages them both, rather than Lone Star's pistol, which only affects one enemy at a time. These mines will do damage to everyone who's within range. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. And we'll look at the items here. Titanium spikes will add 50 more damage to the 400 damage. You can buy it 3 times for 120 solar each. So add in 50 damage 3 times. So 450, 500, or 550. 2.7 kind of changes things around. So this is the item you want to pick if you find yourself fighting with droids quite often, or if enemy Awesomenauts are not really a problem if you have your laser strong enough, or if you're using your time warp well enough to fight off enemy Awesomenauts. If it's droids you're trying to fight more often, this is the item you get, because this item will do the most damage towards them. So it depends on if you'd rather do that, or if you want to be aggressive towards Awesomenauts more. The uranium spikes only do more damage against enemy Awesomenauts, so do bear that in mind. The toaster timer can be bought twice for 110 solar. What it does is that it adds 3 seconds to the time, so rather than 12 seconds, it can be 15 seconds or 18 seconds. So you're kind of wondering what the point of it is. It can work quite well on fire, forget, or just have more mines active at once. So at that extra 3 seconds means you can have an extra mine active at one time. So either laying more traps around the place, blocking exits, or making bigger traps, that kind of thing. Depends on what you want to do with it. So you can throw out people quite well with it. People who are trying to count down how long ago you set your mines. So if you do buy that item and they don't know that, they might jump into an area where they thought the mines expired but they actually didn't. So that could give you the upper hand. It helps you control an area for a longer amount of time. It's more or less psychological warfare than just more powerful bullets per se. The aerial spring, 110 solar, makes your mines bounce up and down. They're kind of like a bouncy ball. They kind of speed up a little bit when they're falling or moving upwards. However high you are from the ground when you set the mine, that's how high they'll bounce. So if you're just a couple inches off the ground, they'll only bounce a couple inches, or if you're 10 feet high, they'll bounce 10 feet high. So it can be good for protecting the area better, preventing people from trying to get through. However, because of the ball, the mines bounce in a predictable pattern, it can be possible to jump over or jump underneath a mine if you have them set too high. But you can set multiple mines and they all bounce, so you can cover an area quite well. Say for example where a turret was blown up, you can set some mines there and make it very, very difficult for someone to get through without getting some damage in return. Okay, Mining Constructor can be bought twice for 150 solar. So what it does is that it reduces cooldown by half a second, so instead of the 4-second cooldown, it can be taken down to 3.5 or 3 seconds. I find this item benefits aggressive Yuris the most because a lot of Yuris will, instead of laying mines around the place, they just get as close as they can to an enemy and then lay mines. So do the damage immediately instead of it being taken advantage of, say, a Sentry or Froggy G, because a Sentry can take advantage of mines by activating his shield and converting that damage into his black hole stun damage, or Froggy G, who can use a splash dash and just take no damage from mines but still clear them out. If you don't want to lay mines around, if you just want to do more face planting, or if you just want to lay mines more often, make them last longer, depends on what you want to do. But do be aware of your counters when you're laying mines. Should you lay them around the place, or should you wait for an opening? Should you wait for an enemy to be on their cooldown and then start attacking? Going on to the carpet bombs, 145 solar. It gives, instead of 1 mine, it gives 3 smaller mines. It divides the damage by 2.5. So on the base damage, instead of divided by 3, it's 2.5. But it's kind of a risk versus reward. It takes longer to set down 3 mines than 1 mine. Kind of 1, 2, 3, rather than the 1. So where the 1 does 400, each mine does 160 damage. So you can set mines in the same spot. So 160, 320, 480 if they hit all 3 mines. That is the thing though, if you have mines spread out around the place, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it might help with controlling the area better. Probably better against droids. But if you're able to pack mines in one spot, you can get the upper hand by laying these items. The only thing about it though, it takes longer to set the mines down, so there could be time when you could be activating your time warp or attacking with your laser. It depends on what you should be doing at that time. That's all I really have to mention. And as mentioned with the titanium spikes, the uranium spikes is pretty much fully upgraded titanium spikes, except that it only damages enemy Awesomenauts. Whereas before it could damage everyone, and it was a cheaper version because 150 extra damage for 300 solar versus the 360 solar. If you find yourself needing to attack enemy Awesomenauts more, if you're just going for a more aggressive playstyle, that is something to consider. Fairly cheap, but it doesn't do any damage against someone who is not an enemy Awesomenaut, so droids, critters, weedlings. So be careful of which items you get, because you might end up having to defend from weedlings or droids, but this item is completely useless to them. So do bear that in mind. Okay, so hopefully that was of use to you. I'm going to try this kind of style of video in order to be able to get the videos out at a decent pace every little once in a while. And just so that I won't spend too much time trying to cover each character. Genji, Voltar, and Yuri for now. I doubt I'll do more characters because trying to do all the information and then a patch might come along and then having to redo stuff, that kind of thing. Oh well. So hopefully that was of use to you. We'll move on to either Genji or Voltar next time. Thanks very much for watching.